Oh, there we go. That went live fast. Sometimes this thing kind of dilly-dallies around on getting over to being live, and then other times it's instantly live, which is cool. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Hopefully you're all making it over to our Saturday Morning Mindset page. And just as a FYI, I finally got around to buying the URL that is SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. So if you ever are wondering, you know, where are they on Saturday morning, from now on I'll be editing the link each week so that if you just go to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com, you'll be able to find our event page. So I thought that would be very helpful. I don't know why I didn't get around to it until now, but you know, busy life. So anyway, with that being said, welcome. If you're out there hanging out on our Google or on our event page, tell us where you are, who you are, where you're hanging out from. You know, let us know if this is your first time here, and you know, and let us know what you think that you want to get out of this mastermind, because of course we come together every single week on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we discuss different topics that impact our lives on the personal development, self-improvement area. And we want to hear what your thoughts are, because more than anything, it's our experiences along with the content that we read that can help us bring insights to each other, you know, because that's how it's the best way to learn. So originally, you know, that's one of the main reasons that I created this community and this Saturday Morning Mindset, is just so that we can all grow and become a better version of ourselves. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over. I didn't even introduce myself. What's wrong with me? I'm Samantha Studebaker-Carl, coming at you from beautiful Southwest Georgia, and I'm here with my good friends Vicki, Sandy, Dan, and Catherine, and I'm just going to turn it over to whoever wants to pop out next and say where you are and who you are and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to mute out for a moment.
Well, I'll go ahead and hop out and just introduce myself. I'm Vicki DeVore from Houston, Texas, and just glad to be here this morning and looking forward to what we're going to talk about today. So thanks, Samantha.
Good morning. This is Sandy Root. Am I here? Oh, there I am. Okay. Excuse me. Somehow I got a cough in the middle of summer. I think it was from air conditioning in Miami last weekend. But I'm in Brooklyn here, Brooklyn, New York. If you've been watching, you know I normally have turquoise walls, and they're all white and empty now, so I'm heading out this week out of Brooklyn. So we'll see where the journey takes me, and yeah, I'm happy to be here and looking forward to share with you over the next hour.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dan Smith. I'm from Boise, Idaho, and having a beautiful day here this morning. Temperature's been a little bit on the low side, which is way better than 100 degrees, so been really thankful for that. So anyways, welcome to the call today, and hopefully we can get out some good material today.
Good morning. I'm Catherine Clement. I'm here in Boulder, Colorado. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Welcome everybody. I'm so glad to have you here. I just want to say real quick, I noticed there's a few people that said either they're going to show up or they are hanging out with us, so I'm just going to give you a shout out. Hi Marlene and Dahlia, Kay Brown, G. Michelle, Benone Andrew, and there's another one that I can't read what your name is. It's in another language that I don't understand, and I apologize for not knowing it, but welcome anyway. Anyway, guys, the books that we've been studying, if you've been following us along for any amount of time, is The New Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And if you need a copy of this book, jump over to our Google Plus community, and you can find it at mindsetmasterycollective.com. And in there, just shoot me a message, or anybody on the panel here, connect with any one of us, and we can get you the PDF version of this book so that you can follow along with us and add your thoughts and opinions and that sort of thing. And the other thing that we've been doing recently is we are actually kind of posting a pre-hangout discussion or a pre-mastermind discussion in our community each week, so that you have the opportunity to share with us your thoughts and experiences And then, and that's what we've been really just kind of discussing for the past couple of weeks on our mastermind. Whereas before we were reading through the book, and that was great too. But I really am liking, being able to hear more from everybody, because I think we learn more that way. But anyway, this section is actually called "How to Remove Emotional Scars and Give Yourself a Spiritual Facelift." And so, one of the biggest things that that we all face, or not, I don't know if everybody faces it, but a lot of people face, is just having more happiness in their life. And when you've got emotional scars that are kind of following you around or causing you to be upset with yourself or upset with other people, it takes away from your happiness. And so this whole last part of this section of was this chapter 10 is all about removing those emotional scars. And so Catherine and Dan both added to our conversation in the pre-hangout discussion, and I just wanted to say there's a number of different things that I felt like were just really powerful thoughts in there. Because I mean, Catherine, you were talking about how when we realize that that we are kind of connected in every way to everyone, and that there really isn't anything to forgive. I thought that was a really interesting concept, because for me, I have always found it somewhat easy to forgive in situations. Of course, I've been very, very lucky that I have not had a huge amount of things happen to me that I feel like I would have to forgive people for. But for me, it's easy to see the other person's point of view, and being able to do that, it makes it so that, I don't know, I guess it's just easier for me to just say, okay, it's my perception that is really causing me the pain, versus versus someone purposely doing something to me in order to hurt me in some way. But I noticed that that Dan, you were kind of talking about how you had a lot of people in your life, or your brother and other people that had really kind of irked you over the years, done things physically and emotionally to hurt you. And I think that it's hard when you're young, when somebody does things to you that you don't understand why they're doing it, and you don't understand why they would treat you that way, and that can carry forward a long time in your life. And I know there's a lot of people who have experienced that. And in my family, it was my sister. She was always the one that was getting picked on for one reason or another. And of course, when we're young, we don't know what we're doing to each other. We have no clue of the damage that we can do to one another by doing those things. But in realistic, in my opinion, I feel like the key to being able to forgive people is actually just to realize that you're the one that is having this emotional distress, and even though that other person is not, they're not intentionally trying to hurt you permanently for life, you may feel like you may feel that it is. It's like they've purposely done this to you to ruin your life. And I'm kind of rambling now because I've lost my train of thought, so anybody feel free to jump in. Maybe I'll just go through my notes. I don't know. You ever have those moments? Let's see here. Which ones? Feel free to jump in at any moment. Or I could just start reading things that I underlined in the chapter, too. I know we're going to get this conversation.
I'll talk for a few minutes, Samantha, and give you time to collect your thoughts. And I was like...
You what? Say that again.
I said, I'll talk for a few minutes and give you some time to collect your thoughts. When I was about 11 or 12 years old, I was downtown with my mother and one of my sisters, and my mother had weak bladder issues, which is probably too much information. Anyway, she had to go find a bathroom, so I was waiting in the car for her to come back, and I heard this guy walk down the road talking, and I wasn't looking at him, but I heard him just, having a pretty animated conversation. And when I did finally turn around and look at the guy, I realized there was nobody around him. He was talking to himself. And, to the point where it actually frightened me. I was pretty little then, but it actually frightened me, because the guy was, probably I don't know what, schizophrenic, or I mean, who knows what, but the conversation that he was having was an angry conversation over something that may have happened, who knows, 40 years earlier. And a few years ago, excuse me, I used to have a painting company I ran for years, and I had an employee that worked for me that was kind of the same way. I mean, part of the time the dude was just as normal as anybody else, but then he would go off in some place in his mind, and I mean, literally, the guy would be screaming, and it's really what would be considered crazy behavior. But he was angry. He was angry at his father, and was having conversations and just literally yelling at his father, you know, and to the point where finally, you know, we parted the company. I had to let him go just because it's like, man, I can't have you out here on my jobs being crazy like this. I mean, you know, and it was really a shame because he was a good worker, and I hated to let him go. But you know, unforgiveness is like a poison that you inject into your own blood vessel, so to speak. You know, and it goes throughout your entire body, and not being able to let go of the past, and you know, just to let it go, and it's something that keeps cropping up. You know, it's like some of the things I shared in pre discussion was that can still crop back up, and you still start thinking about it, and then when you dwell on it, the more you dwell on it, the more it grows in your experience, and you actually just have to come to a point where you say, no, forget about it. I have forgiven that. It's dealt with. It's done. It's in the past. And it's not so much for the other person's benefit as it is for your own benefit, because you'll screw up the rest of your life, just like the two guys that I was talking about, the older guy when I was a kid, and then this employee that used to work for me, not having the ability to let go of the past so that you can have a good present and a better future. You know, it's just something that's really necessary in order to have a good life. So I'll turn it over to somebody else, and Samantha, hopefully you've got it back together again.
Uh, yeah, I have those moments. You know, it's okay though because I'm blonde, right? Yeah, I get away with it. But yeah, if anybody else want to jump in, feel free. I just had to giggle out loud on that one. uh,
And I don't, when you were, the last thing you were saying, Samantha, made me think, you know, because the situation I mentioned, when was that? Like 2 weeks ago, with this ex coming into my life, you had said, you know, you don't think that the person is actually wanting to really harm you. But this situation, it really feels, and a lot of people like from the outside are feeling like he really is here he really wants to. He wants to take you off track. He's like this little devil guy that is here to really, he wants to see me suffer. And so I've been really having a hard time with forgiveness with him. So I'm just working with it. So I think this discussion will really help me because it just keeps continuing on, like these little things that he's doing, even though we're not seeing each other communicating. It's just like these through different kinds of communication through friends, just the things he's doing. It's like it won't go away. And so I'm really looking forward to getting to a space where I can forgive, and like how you were saying, Catherine, you know, how we're all connected. So I'm also looking inwardly, like what is this? Is this a reflection of my craziness, or you know, really where am I supposed to look with this? So yeah, I look forward to the discussion to get some clarity.
Yeah, I think that's you know, it's a hard thing to do, to look back at yourself and say, what is it about me that's bringing about this reflection? Holy smokes, this is a big conversation, you guys, you know. I However you choose to do it, however you choose to look at it, you know, you have to find a way to come to peace within yourself about things. Dan, I hate to tell you, I'm going to be the bad guy here. I hate to tell you, but if you have to remind yourself that you've forgiven somebody, there's still enough emotional charge there. I don't think the forgiveness is complete. You might be partially there, but if it keeps coming back up, like you said, Sandy, this thing keeps coming back up. So what is it there to show you? So I would just try to look at what emotions, what nobody makes you feel anything, but that's a term that we love to use, you know. Oh, well, so and so made me feel this, so and so. Nobody makes you feel anything, but look at that. What does he make you feel? You know, exactly. Does he make you feel hopeless? Does he make you feel out of control? Does he make you feel like a failure? Does he make you feel, you know, what does he make you feel? And then go back and find that inner child, because that's where it all comes from. Go back, find that inner child that had that emotion, and embrace that child, because and be truthful with yourself, you know, because sometimes people trigger emotions, you know, maybe they're making us feel what they're making us feel, whatever, but it's not them, it's us. They're making us feel worthless. Well, maybe I feel worthless because of whatever, and he just happens to trigger that emotion, you know, or I don't know, whatever the emotion is. I'm pretty sure you understand what I'm trying to say here, even though I'm not saying it well. But you know, I've had so many of these situations in my life, and some of them are appropriate for the internet and some of them aren't. But in the end, the resolution of them are all the same, you know. So we all have different ways, you know, to cope with things. But I would really just encourage everyone to try to figure out, because that other person really, the things that they're triggering, that's just stuff in there that you need to love. Yeah, that's all it is. That's all that emotion is. And it's really, gosh, it's really it's a gift that they give us. It's a gift. It's really a gift that they trigger this shit in us. Oh, sorry. With the language. But because if they didn't, you know, all that stuff would still be in there. We wouldn't even know it, right? So it's such a gift. So I'll quit rambling now.
Well, you know, this is, for me, this is really kind of an appropriate topic today because it's some of the stuff that I'm kind of working through as well. And I think Kay Brown is on, she's not on the panel, but she's viewing. And she and I've had a discussion about some of the things coming up with me, is that when these emotions, she said that when these emotions come up, it is to bring it to our psyche or to bring it to our knowledge that it's something that needs to be healed. And Catherine, you're right, because that's exactly what she told me. She says that some of these issues go back to an incident in childhood, and that, you know, just really need to investigate, not spend a lot of time investigating, but just go back and find out when that really happened and take that as a learning opportunity for either forgiveness or for whichever we need to do. And that was really pretty powerful for me yesterday, because, you know, it is those tapes we can kind of let get embedded in us and kind of keep running over and over. And it is sometimes it's difficult to admit that when, say, like in Sandy's situation, this ex, you know, say maybe blocks her on Facebook, you know, and all this other kind of stuff. And so she's going, okay, good, he's out of my life, you know. I cannot have to worry about that. And then all of a sudden, bam, people play with your emotions, but then you sit there and you go, okay, what part of me, not necessarily is attracting it, but what part of me has had something like this experience before, and to go back and, like I said, just investigate where it all kind of started and visit with that little child or even teenager or whichever that it was. So. But anyway, Kay Brown, I want to just give a shout out to her. She has been very instrumental in helping me come through a couple of other things yesterday, and And so, yeah, it's true that there's a lesson. It may be painful for a while, but all these things that come up, there is a lesson, and there's a seed of greatness that can come out of it. Because I think sometimes when we have these challenges that we have, is that we feel like, or at least I know I have, I can't do a general statement that, okay, well, you know, if I share this, I will be perceived as being weak. And she helped remind me is that no, by it being our vulnerability and our transparency and being willing to share those, if not in a whining sense or complaining, but, you know, if it's going to help someone, when we're willing to be open and transparent, is that we're really stepping into our strength. So that's just kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to K2. The timing is pretty cool because, yeah, when we were, the 3 of us were together last weekend, she was talking about stuff like this and talking to her inner child, and she came up that I really need to talk to my 12-year-old, which made a lot of sense to me. And you know, what you were saying, Catherine and Vicki, you know, it really is a gift, and I always remember that as I'm going through it, that, you know, I'm going to come out so much stronger out of whatever this whirlwind is. But yeah, I always remember that this is a gift. All our struggles and everything that we go through that's painful is totally a gift. So I'm definitely grateful that it is coming up, and especially before I moved, because a lot of this apartment was him, a lot of things in here were him. So it's sort of like this huge cleansing, and I'm just super grateful for it. It's quite the process, but it's awesome and amazing at the same time. So yeah, thanks for sharing, guys.
Dan, I have to go back to something you said too. My ex-mother-in-law, she's passed now, but she was one of those people that you talked about that was, you know, she was always in an argument with somebody, and it was like screaming. And every time I would go visit her, and then she lived with us for quite a while, several years. You know, I would sit down at the kitchen table with coffee with her, and she would just be in this rant, this just rage, and I mean, you could just see it in her. She was just completely immersed in that memory of a past time, and she said the same things to me over and over, and she talked to me like it was me, you know, that had done her wrong, and that she was angry with. And it's interesting. It's unfortunate that people get stuck in these memories like that. But there's a lot of us, you know, we might call that crazy, but there's a lot of us that have that same argument in our heads every day. Just because somebody verbalizes it outwardly, maybe if more of us would learn how to verbalize outwardly in the beginning. Now, obviously, those people, I totally get you, Dan. I totally get you that they're kind of, you know, they've rerun that so long that they're so stuck in that pattern they can't get out of it. But I think if and you know, it's getting better as we go along. Like in our generation, Dan, we were told, you know, be seen and not heard and all that, and stuff your emotions. And now it's getting better. You know, we're having our kids express their emotions better, and hopefully it'll prevent some of this stuff in the future, because I think if people would learn how to verbalize those emotions and those feelings in the beginning instead of stuff them, then they wouldn't eventually wind up as one of those people that's you know, stuck in that, going over and over it. And I watched a video the other day. I don't know why I watched that video, maybe for this discussion, who knows, but it was about a family that the father was sexually abusive. And there were a lot of, they were all girls that were abused, but there were a lot of them because he married one woman that had several girls, and then they had some children. I think there were maybe 5 in the first family, and then he married this other woman that had 3 or 4 girls, and he sexually abused every one of those girls. And every one of them seems to be forevermore in a very deep and dark place. These things that we hold on to, and I know that seems like something that's impossible to get over, but I can tell you that you can. And we really have to choose what we hold on to and what we allow to rule our lives. You know, we have to. It's our life. You know, we just have to make that decision. We talk about decisions all the time in this niche, you know, and that's a huge decision, is to learn what you're going to carry with you for the rest of your trip. You know, you keep stuffing stuff in your baggage, pretty soon you can't carry it anymore, you know. So we have to learn what to put down. And if you don't, I mean, these ladies were, I don't know if any of them will ever come out of it, you know. And so I'm so glad to get together in a situation, you know, in a forum like this where people can talk about things, maybe not all those kinds of things, but talk about ways to handle those kind of things. And then certainly we can take it to personal conversations. I'm of course open to speak to anyone at any time. So yeah, this is just a huge topic, guys. It's just a huge topic. It makes lives or breaks lives. That's it.
Well, one of the things that we really, you know,
just wanted.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan.
Well, one of the things.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to jump in real quick because Jason Roberts made a comment on the event page, and he said, "Good points, Dan. I'd like to add that it's important to let go and move on in a proper way. If we move on just for the sake of moving on, we may later still have hard feelings about what went on." So I just wanted to add that real quick, Dan, before you started into whatever you were going to say next. So go ahead.
Okay, well, that's all right. Yeah, I need to regather my thoughts now too. But you know, one of the things that we study in so many books is the topic of self-talk and the things that you say to yourself. And in this section, you know, Maxwell Maltz goes into that, you know, a little bit. How do you describe yourself to yourself? If you make a mistake, do you say to yourself, "I'm an idiot," or do you say that I made a mistake? And if you say "I'm an idiot," that describes a state of being that you live in perpetually. Or if you say "I made a mistake," that's a one-time act and doesn't describe you as being, quote unquote, an idiot or a screw up, or I mean, however, whatever language that you choose to describe yourself to yourself, and the language that you use to actually verbalize things. And so from my perspective, and I realize it's just my perspective, but when you do talk to yourself, like the people that I brought up earlier, that from my perspective was kind of out there, you know, they never, well, for one thing, they never learned to forgive, but for another thing, they repeated that language over and over and over and over again until maybe they didn't start out crazy, but they actually become crazy because of self-talk and saying the same things over and over and over again. One of the statements that you know, I heard this years ago, but your subconscious mind can't take a joke. And so when you say these things to yourself about yourself, you know, you turn and you knock your glass of tea off onto the floor off the counter and spills all over, and you say, "I'm such a klutz." Well, every time you make that statement, that drives that thought a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper into your subconscious mind. And you know, one of the things that I wrote in the discussion was that, and I've talked about this before, but I was programmed from early childhood. You know, it's like you come into a situation, you're with your parents, and somebody else comes up and they starts talking to you, and you're maybe 4 or 5 years old, and you duck behind your mother or your father's leg or whatever, and maybe, you know, do that, close your eyes, and then the parents say, "He's so shy." And so you hear that over and over again. It's like, well, yeah, by gosh, maybe I am shy, you know, and that thought drives itself into your subconscious mind, And then years later, when you don't want to be shy, that thought is laying there that was planted there maybe 20 or 30 years earlier, but it's lying there and it's not dormant. It's lying there and it's creating vibrations, creating waves, creating thought patterns in your life that are still emanating, and you've totally consciously you've forgotten it. I think that I shared several weeks ago that I was going through some exercises and something I hadn't thought about for years and years and years, and this thought just popped into my mind, and it's, you should be ashamed of yourself. And it's like, wow, I hadn't thought about it. It's been years since I'd even thought about that. But that was something that I heard all the time when I was a little kid, because I was always in trouble. And technically, yeah, I probably should have been ashamed of myself. But nevertheless, that thought was injected into my mind. It laid there dormant, so to speak, for all those years. But nevertheless, it's cooking behind the scenes. And so whenever you come to a situation in life where maybe you want to step out, you want to be bold, you want to go, take the bull by the horns, so to speak, in whatever situation, but then this thought pops back up, you should be ashamed of yourself. And that self-talk that we all have, that little person sits up here on our shoulder that whispers in our ear, well, you can't do it. You can't do it. You should be ashamed of yourself. All these different things, the different thoughts, the self-talk that we all have. So what we're really doing is an attempt to take control over our thoughts, to take control of the things that we say to ourselves, so that we don't continue to program ourselves with negative beliefs, negative understandings of life. Learning to forgive not only others, but learning to forgive yourself so that you can move on in life, so that you can have a better life in the future, just to take control of life and not to be beat down by situations, things that, like I said, things that we heard when we was a little kid, 5 years old, 6 years old. I got to admit, I had a lot of crap in my life. I still do, but it's like a clump of bulbs that you have to dig up and divide bulbs and decide which ones you want to keep and which ones that maybe it's just time to let that go. Put it away. So anyway, I didn't mean to rant this long, but I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Thanks, Dan. Jason added another comment to the page. He says, our unconscious can't take a joke. More great points. The past doesn't predict the future, but it's difficult when we bring our past into the present by reminding ourselves of daily heartache and unresolved pain. I think he was just quoting you, Dan, that that was a good point. One thing that a few things came up for me. One, I want to take us in a different direction, but before I do that, or not an entirely different direction, but from a different perspective. But before I do that, I want to talk again on the reflections of, Catherine, you mentioned this, and Sandy, you talked about it a little bit. I think that we've all said something about it as far as, other people reflecting feelings that we have inside of ourselves. And I'll give you an example. As when I was growing up, my dad was really, really, really overprotective and very, he wanted to keep me sheltered. He was very, what's another word for it? Just very controlling. That's the right word for it. And because of that, I experienced all of these different situations where I just want to do the simplest thing, and he would just not let me do it. He wouldn't let me do so many things that every other kid that I knew was able to do, just silly stuff. And so because of this, when I started getting into relationships with men, of course, here I am, old enough that I should be free and be my own person and do my own thing. I'd get into a relationship with a man, and when that person would, not like what I would do, I would instantly be like mad at them, be like, who are you to tell me what I can and can't do? And, and the thing is that over the years, because of that childhood programming of, this man telling me what I can and can't do, it's, you know, it's carried forward even into my marriage. And so even though I know where that comes from, and even though I recognize that it's my own feeling of, I don't know if it's insecurity or if it is not confident in my own decisions, or and maybe that was part of it as a child. Because my dad was so controlling, he made me question every thought of my own. And so then when I move into my future and in my life with my husband, if he doesn't like some decision that I've made, or he doesn't like what I'm doing, or I decide I want to go do something and he's, for whatever reason, doesn't like it, then of course it brings up all those feelings. And of course this is a great way for us to grow when we look inside ourselves and say, okay, what's really going on with me? Because obviously I'm not mad at my husband. I'm just having a feeling stirring up inside of myself. And sometimes it comes back to that whole, okay, you know, maybe you're right, maybe I'm not, maybe I shouldn't do this, or maybe I shouldn't do that, or, you know, whatever it is. You know, I think that we all have that. And I think, yeah, so I was just sitting here, you know, when Dan's talking about this early childhood program, is we get that stuck in our head that, you know, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I think that a lot of this, like the self-talk that Maxwell Maltz talks about in here, is that when we talk down to ourselves and we say, you know, or we feel guilty about something, the guilt doesn't necessarily come directly from, you know, a feeling inside of ourselves that we are doing wrong. It's that feeling that we think someone else is going to not approve of what we're doing. And so then that causes us to have that, you know, that guilt of, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't do this, you know, and because someone else might not approve. You know, and you know, and of course that comes a lot if you have family members that like to, you know, try and give you a guilt trip over whatever, you know, because of their life experiences. They feel like, no, you shouldn't do it. But the direction I wanted to take us in is I want everybody to kind of look at things from a slightly different perspective. And that in my opinion, and guys, this is just my opinion based on my life experience and everything I've read and all of those different kinds of things, is that I feel like as we are basically infinite light beings, or, you know, God incarnate, or, you know, just a, you know, a soul, a life force that is ultimately pure, that has no desire for wrong, has no desire for right, and is just here for an experience in life. And if we look at it that way, is that we are all each this infinite life source here just for a life experience, and that everything that happened to us from when we were born up until this point in our life has been a programming of everything that has happened to us. If we look at every other person in the same way, that we're all just here to have a life experience and to, you know, feel what it's like to be a human and experience emotions and experience, you know, pain and pleasure and fun and just every emotion under the sun, anger and frustration. If we're meant to experience these feelings and just experience what life is, that if you can look at another person and go, okay, that person is here for those exact same things, that ultimately you know that other life force is not purposefully trying to hurt you, because they're just living their life experience. And when their life experience has caused them to grow up and be the personality that they are, and have the feelings that they are, and have the emotions that they have, and have the emotional hurts that they have, and all of those kinds of things. And so if you are in a relationship with somebody who also has all of these emotional things going on with them, and maybe they're doing things to you that bring up emotional things inside of you, is that it may seem on the outside like they're purposefully trying to hurt you, but yet if you look at, you go, okay, well, this person acting in this way is of their entire life programming. It's not because of their inner soul, and it's not because of their true life force that's doing that, because ultimately if we all are this ultimate life, or this, you know, infinite life source, we're all a part of each other, right? We're all part of that energy. And if we all can look at it more in that way and recognize that the things that other people do aren't specifically out just to hurt us as a light being, if you will, then in my opinion, I think that makes it easier. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. That makes a lot of sense. You know, because I see that, yeah, in this person, you know, like their soul is really sweet and beautiful, and that's the thing that always made me go back, and you know, and yeah, I see that on all the stuff that's going between us is a conditioning, just emotional rap that we just keep playing out with each other, and so yeah, I'm really glad you shared that. That really helped me look at it and remember that, you know, and that even though I'm thinking it's really this like attack on me, it's really it's him playing out his pain and his childhood stuff that he needs to work on, and you know, and it's helping me see like we're all speaking about, you know, how this is just bringing up stuff, an emotion that I'm from my childhood, and really looking at where that came from, and you know, just gaining strength from working with that. So thanks again, that was awesome.
One more thing that I just had a thought of, I should have said before I finished, but was the other thing is to remember that everybody's on a different level of spiritual journey. So you may be more enlightened than the other person in terms of being aware of what you, of your participation in all of it. You know, he may not be aware. He may just be working all on that programming and not even be looking at the inside as if any of it has anything to do with him, you know. And of course, like what Catherine was saying in the pre-mastermind discussion of us all being a reflection, or of the things that show up in our lives as they are a reflection of the things that are going inside of us. And of course, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be able to grow as a person. But yet there are people that they don't even realize they can grow. They're just stuck. And so I think that those people can be a little bit more difficult to, you know, have a relationship with, because they're not trying to, you know, change or be or recognize their own, recognize the fact that they are the center of their own universe. You know, I mean, that's kind of my thought on it. I mean, ultimately, we are all the center of our own universe, because without our, you know, without us, nothing else would be out there. We wouldn't even experience it. And of course, you know, I was reading, what else was I reading recently? I can't remember what it was, but basically it was talking about, now I lost my train of thought because my neighbor just backed in. But somebody jump in real quick, it'll come back to me.
Yeah, well, yeah, what you just said too makes a lot of sense. You know, he comes off like he's very enlightened, but you know, he won't look at his own stuff. He just doesn't. And I'm always working like, how can we work through this and look at it in a way that's helping us? And it's just like, no, like the shutdown, like complete back to childhood reaction. And so yeah, that makes sense too. You know, just some people aren't ready to look at their stuff, or you know, like you said, they're the center of their universe, and that resonates a lot with the situation. So thanks again.
One little quick tip that I use, that I just remind myself all the time when I start to feel myself going to some of those places is, and this is just my belief, okay, but I like to believe that, I don't know if you guys watch that movie, what's it called, The Story of Pi or something, about the guy on the boat and with the tiger and the whole, like, we get to choose what we want to believe, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether somebody thinks it's crazy or not. If it keeps us in a centered, happy place, then hey, I say go for it. So what I believe is that, you know, we are all one, and that, like, I mean, we still have our own individual selves, even as the when we're in that one space, but here on earth, right now, I like to think of us as like this little teeny tiny parts of ourselves. Like here's this great big part of ourselves out here, and then here we are, this little tiny part of ourselves. But all the rest of our big parts are out here, and we're all in complete cooperation. Like we're all just pure love. Everything's, good, and we're all working together out here, and we're saying, okay, and this little part is saying unconsciously, I want to experience this. And so out here, all these things start going on, and then it happens. And then we're like, what the, right? But it's, we're asking for these situations, even if we don't know. And sometimes it's the self-talk, what is it, chapter 4 in Think and Grow Rich. If you want to know more about self-talk, go read that chapter. Because you have a lot of things going on. You might call this the subconscious. I don't really call that the subconscious, but that's like the whole consciousness out here. I don't know if I'm getting this through at all. But anyway, when I get in those places, I remember this is just the teeniest, tiniest, most, I mean, I can't even look at a flower and really, I just cry when I look at a flower and take in the beauty of it. My mind, I have to recognize that my little human part here is so, so like unaware of so many things, and so naive and so small-minded. And as much as I, try to understand things, I don't know shit, really. I mean, when it all comes down to it. So I just try to keep that in perspective. This is just a little teeny tiny part of myself, and everything is perfect all the time. And it's just taking that different perspective of how to look at it at the time.
Anybody else want to jump out at this point? Okay, go ahead, Vicki.
Oh, I was just going to say, that I guess because of our brains, and well, actually from our heart, because they say it's our heart is the main energy center that sends out vibrations. So, if we've got things going on in our heart, whether good or maybe, not less, is that's kind of going on with setting out the tone of the vibration out to, like what Catherine was talking about, our major consciousness, is then that in turn is what we kind of bring back to us. So, but earlier on forgiveness, I remember, and I'm sure we've all heard this, is that really forgiveness is not something that we do for the other person. It's something that we do for ourselves. And a little thing popped in my head because you were talking about, choosing what to keep and choosing what not to keep. Like Dan said, like which baseball to keep, which one not to keep, or which rock to put in our bag that we're going to carry with us or into our suitcase. Is that I thought, maybe for myself, I might start like a little thing, like writing down, I'm going to choose to let go of this as the gift to myself of the forgiveness. Because like I say, we can't, some people, they may have passed on already and we can say that, that we forgive them, but really I guess what we're saying is that we can release them or release that feeling that we're holding on to. And maybe, by maybe even writing it down and consciously looking at it like, okay, I'm going to release that. My father was very similar to yours, Samantha. My dad was very controlling, and he always would say, when I wanted to make a decision or ask him about something, it was, well, I'm the father, you're the daughter, I'm right, you're wrong. So when I got ready to make a decision, I always have felt that, oh my gosh, am I making a right decision? Should I, like pick up the phone and call him and get his opinion on stuff? And, I did learn a long time ago is, like you said, that was his stuff. I think, deep down he probably had my best interest at heart. But yet at some point, as parents, we have to let our children grow up and make their own decisions, whether we feel it's the right decision or not. So that's something that I've had to kind of work through, is realizing and trusting my own self on decisions, but also releasing that thought pattern from my life. So, you know, I'm kind of rambling too, but it seems like maybe sometimes if we could just get those thoughts and things out of here and maybe out here, like onto a piece of paper or something like that, or a journal or any of that kind of stuff, then we've actually, you know, excised it from us. So maybe that'll help somebody. I don't know. I would say I'm just like, we seem to have some rambling thoughts going on today. But
I think that happens, doesn't it?
that's my 2 cents. So.
That's good, Vicki. You know, I actually had kind of written that down in my notes as I was going through this chapter about forgiveness is not something you do for the other person, and with for being very emphasized. It's not something you do for someone else, because of course in here it talks a lot. In this section it was talking about, you know, forgiving people and like getting the advantage over them. Like if you forgive them, then they owe you something. But in reality, you know, you're the one that harbors the feelings that causes a need for forgiveness in the first place. And if that's the case, then, you know, forgiveness is actually just a releasing of the blame on someone else, because you're the one that's actually feeling those experiences. And so no one can make you feel something that you don't choose to feel. And when you can realize that, you know, yeah, this other person is doing something that is coming up inside of me, and it's causing me to feel these feelings, it's those feelings inside of you that are the real issue, you know. And you know, as I read through this chapter, I really was kind of like, you know, maybe I should look up what the word forgiveness actually means. But in my opinion, forgiveness just means releasing. It's just releasing that feeling of upsetness inside of yourself that was triggered by someone else, and that they aren't actually the cause of it, because they can't make you feel anything that you don't choose to feel. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Oh, Jason popped on here. He says, I like Catherine's comments also. Perspective can change everything, like the choice to make new good self-talk fill our minds rather than just floating through the life re-experience old thoughts that haven't served us well. That's a good point, Jason. Just excellent. So let's, does anybody else have more that they want to add? Because we could jump through this chapter a little bit. And of course, we were talking a lot about this, or we're talking a little bit about the forgiving yourself as well as others, because of course Maxwell and Maltz talks a lot about you know, forgiving yourself. And Dan, you talk a lot about this too, is that if you don't forgive yourself, then of course you harbor these feelings like there's something wrong with you. And of course, if we talk about forgiveness as a releasing of the feelings that we're having inside of us, and that we're blaming somebody for something, and that if we are upset at ourselves for some reason or another, is to realize that of course that was a mistake. We made a mistake, and it's not the end of the world. And that, you know, just because you made that mistake does not mean that you're a horrible person, that you made a mistake. You don't ever have to make that mistake again. Now that's kind of the key, I think, is to realize that, okay, this happened on this date way back when, or maybe it was yesterday, who knows what it was, whatever it was that you did, but you did it, you made a mistake, and that's part of life. Everybody makes mistakes. Sometimes things happen, and you don't make a choice that is beneficial to everybody involved, but at the same time, we all do the best that we can from where we are in our life and from what our upbringing has been. And, you know, and of course, you know, I talk about my husband a lot. I love my husband very much, but his mother was very, very negative towards him. And so he has a lot of programming of low self-worth because of it. And, you know, he's grown a lot over the years, which is wonderful, but things will come up where he will talk in a way to, you know, my daughter or my son that I see it, you know, and I instantly want to pounce on it, you know, and I'm like, but that's me and my feelings of, okay, you know, my dad being controlling, and, you know, my feelings about that. And, you know, but it's, at the same time, I'm like, you know, I have to allow them to work out their things. You know, I have to allow them to grow from that and experience whatever it is they're experiencing because of it. So, any other thoughts on that stuff?
Yeah, well, I feel like I've had a breakthrough from what Vicky, and think Samantha touched on it as well, about, I've heard it 1,000 times, how forgiving is really an inside job, like we're forgiving the other person, but it's about what we're feeling inside, our letting go of the feelings or the emotions attached to that pain. And it's just, I can't put it into words. It just feels like I've internalized it in a different way when I was listening to you than I have from hearing it 1,000 times before. You can hear something 1,000 times, but you don't really get it until the time is right, I guess, inside. And it just feels like I was just like, oh, I just had a moment of like, I feel it. I feel what that is. And so thank you. And the good reminder about journaling, Vicki, because that's something I thought of a couple weeks ago, like I should really start journaling again. I used to a lot. And actually, as I was cleaning out a closet, I found some of my old journals. So I'm looking through them a little bit, and it was like, wow. And so, yeah, that's a good reminder. I definitely want to start journaling again. I think that's a really important part of releasing past stuff too. So I'm grateful for you guys and love you guys so much. Thank you.
I just want to kind of talk a little bit about the very end of this chapter. A couple of things that come up, because it talks about, an emotional facelift makes you look and feel younger. And one thing in here that he's talking about is that if you can forgive, in other words, if you can just release those emotions that inside of you are causing you to feel the way that you feel, is that you can, it actually lifts the weight off your shoulder. We've all heard that saying of, the monkey on your back, or, you're carrying around what's the other word for it? All this emotional baggage and whatnot. And of course, if you can release that, then it makes you lighter. And that's emotional. It's amazing how emotions actually can feel heavy. And when you can release those negative ones, this literally can lift you up. But it says in here, carrying a grudge against someone or against life can bring on the old age stoop, just like carrying a heavy weight around on your shoulders. It says the youthful attitude and youthful spirit that erases wrinkles from the soul in the face and that puts a sparkle in the eye looks to the future and has great expectation to look forward to. And so, of course, when you're stuck in this rut and you can't forgive these things or let go of these emotional hurts, is that you are literally kind of living in the past. Whereas if you can let those things go, you can fly forward into the future. And I just think that that's just such a powerful thing to realize, that not only can it lift this weight off you, but it can also, literally, just make you happier and make you feel better. And I mean, because we've all heard, well, I don't know if everybody's heard, I like to say we've all heard, but I've read a lot of articles that talk about how, stress can cause illness, and stress sometimes comes because, or a lot of times it comes because of this emotional pressure that we put on ourselves. And of course, forgiveness and having emotional scars can add to that stress in life, particularly like in here it was talking about, if you're a parent and you have work and you have this guilt because you missed your child's dance recital, that's another added level of stress in your life. And of course, every little thing that you allow yourself to feel guilty about, or you're upset at yourself for because you made this choice instead of that choice, it just keeps adding on. And if you can release all that, then you can sweep away all of that negativity that has the potential to cause such disease in your life, and also make you ill and make you seem older and make you feel older than what you actually are. But there's a mental training exercise here at the end. And does anybody want to add anything else before I read this and close out the call?
I do want to touch on that, Sam, what you just said, because almost I could think about this for a while, but I would venture to say that all stress is self-induced, right? Because it's all a matter of perspective. So whatever situation you find you're in, you can find a different perspective to reduce the stress. So I would say all stress is self-induced. And yes, it can make your body ill. And, I get on here and I'm like, oh yeah, do this or do that. I'm not trying to be an expert or something. I live this every day. It has not escaped my attention or inner exploration to realize that I deal with physical pain. Like I've had multiple injuries to the same area of my body that was associated with trauma early in life. That's not escaped my recognition. These are emotions and feelings and things that I still need to release so that my body can heal. So yes, it affects you on a very physical. I was an RN for 20 years. I still work with people with their health every day. I look at different illnesses. There's a correlation in different illnesses and different early childhood traumas, and so this forgiveness, it can heal not just your it can not only make you happier, but it can actually physically heal your body. And I believe that when I truly release all of the trapped emotions and trapped energy and all that, that my body will be instantaneously healed like a miracle. I believe that. So now I don't beat myself up over it, like, oh, well, you're still hurting because you haven't released, or that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But seriously, stress affects your health. There's just no doubt about it. And it's almost, if not always, self-induced. So that's all I'm going to say. Good luck. We're here.
I completely agree with you, Catherine, on the health aspect of it. I have little things that going on with me. Like I have this one thing, and I know everybody doesn't need to know all our health problems. So I have this one thing on my foot. It's like this little foot fungus, right? I've had it for years. It just doesn't want to go away. And I've treated it with all kinds of different things. And I think that, like you, Catherine, I think that there's some emotional thing to it. It's like I try and meditate on what is it that is actually causing this in my feet. Why am I having this? And I feel like if I could just identify it and weed it out, that it would it would clear itself up, and that yet at the same time I think sometimes we hold on to emotional things inadvertently on purpose, if you will. Is that the right way of looking at it? Sometimes we aren't ready to let go of whatever it is for some crazy reason, and even though we say we want to on the surface, there's some deep down thing that just doesn't want to let go of it. And and I think that that's something that we have to kind of realize too, is that it takes growth. And like you were saying, Sandy, is that sometimes it's got to be the right, you're not ready for it yet. And then one day something will change, and then you'll be ready, and it'll release, and you'll be like, thank you, finally, whatever it was. But you had to go through all these other things first to get there. It's like those, rungs on a ladder. You got to take the first step to make it to the top. You can't just go from, we're not able to jump from here to 20 feet up or anything. So, we've got to grow. We've got to take those steps to grow. So. Oh, well, this has been a really powerful conversation, guys, and I appreciate so much what everybody has added to this. And for those of you who are out here on the internet, I encourage you to jump over and share your thoughts in our community. Right now, we still have a pinned post in our Google Plus community that is the pre-hangout discussion for this week, and I encourage you to jump over there, read what Catherine, Dan, and I have written, and add your own thoughts to it too, because I'm sure that if you have been watching, thoughts have been coming up for you, and I would love to hear what your experiences are and what you gained from this and what you can add to it, because we can all learn and grow from each other. And real quick, okay, so I want to read what Jason said here real quick. Let's see. Great thoughts, Catherine. In the details of this hangout, it says, for many people, emotional scars have cut them off from other human beings, from many opportunities, and have kept them from living a fulfilled life. That's my case. It makes me sad to think about what I've missed, but at the same time, armed me with what I have learned lately. I can feel great happiness knowing that it does not need to be that way any longer. crazy to feel sorrow and happiness at the same time. Yeah, I'm so with you, Jason. I hear you. I think that we're all right there with you. Is that, yeah, it's you can have that sorrow because maybe you're thinking, and I'm not sure what you're thinking exactly, but for me, I'd be thinking, gosh, if I'd only known this before, you know, and elation because now I know, now I can do something about it, now I can get control of it and start working on, you know, making those changes. So I'm glad to hear from you, Jason. But anyway, guys, jump over to our community, add your thoughts. You can find us at mindsetmasterycollective.com. I'll post the link here on the event page. But again, mindsetmasterycollective.com. And if at any point you would like to jump on the hangout with us and share your thoughts live with us on the panel, just let me know in the community. Tag me on a post. Say, hey, Sam, I'd really like to participate. And we'd be happy to bring you on so that you can, you know, share your insights with us as well. And okay, so one last thing before I close out is I want to read this this training exercise, this mental training exercise at the end of this chapter. And it says, mental training exercises. By far the most challenging and rewarding exercises of all suggested in this book are involving forgiveness. Choose one or two persons from whom for whom you've carried a long resentment over past slights. Sorry, guys. Choose one or two persons for whom you've carried resentment over past slights and find a way in your heart to truly, completely forgive them, no strings attached, and ultimately do so via your actions toward them. Also, identify some past error or situation you have been carrying a grudge against yourself for and forgive yourself. And finally, once and for all, banish this from your thoughts. This may very well require considerable work in your imagination factory. Invest 30 minutes a day for 21 days on a quiet reflection, working on this within yourself in solitude. I think that's just a really great thing to just, you know, this week spend, or, you know, the next 21 days is just spend some time reflecting on, you know, what's really causing those things to come up inside of you, and to realize that, you know, it's you. It's inside of you that's causing you that emotional distress. It's not the other person necessarily. Even though, you know, they can be a part of it, it's you. You are the only one that can choose to feel what you feel. And, you know, just like it was saying earlier in the chapter about, you know, words only have as much power as what you allow them to have. And so, you know, just if you can release those things, it's definitely going to be a benefit for you. Because I can tell you, you know, as I've grown over the years, you know, I feel more and more alive and excited about the future, and realizing that, you know, I don't get hurt as much emotionally. And when even, you know, with my husband, you know, we have a lot of history together and little things back and forth, you know. It's like the most recent, not too long ago, we had this kind of, you know, what would have been a argument years ago was just a little bit of a heated discussion, but in the back of my mind I'm realizing, okay, you know, he's reacting this way because of this, that, and the other in his life and his life experience, and I'm okay with that, because, you know, he has to express himself in that way because he just hasn't gotten to the point yet where he completely realizes it's his own emotional issues that he has to deal with, if you will. So, okay, guys, let's wrap this up for today. Jump over to our community, mindsetmasterycollective.com, add to the conversation. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week. Again, if you missed at the very beginning, I finally got a URL for our event page, so you'll be able to find us at SaturdayMorningMastermind.com every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. So with that, have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.